Have you ever met someone so completely out of place you knew they were hiding a story? That was Zola, a beautiful, brilliant black African girl who, just 6 months ago, commanded a corner office at one of Seoul's top banking firms. She was the star of her division, responsible for managing multi-million-dollar institutional portfolios. But a crisis of conscience, a refusal to participate in the bank's shadowy ethical compromises, had forced her out. Now, she commanded the espresso machine at a quiet café, trading her high-powered suit for an apron, seeking anonymity and a strange, desperate kind of peace. Zola thought she was escaping the darkness of high finance. Unaware, she was walking straight into the path of a monster who operated in the real shadows. He was known in the shadows as the Ghost, feared for his silence and his ruthless efficiency. Kang Min, the Korean Mafia Boss, didn't frequent quiet cafes. His empire demanded secrecy and control. But every day, precisely at Shirling AM, he would appear. He never waited in line. He never made eye contact. He never spoke more than 3 words, black Americano, large. He was perfect, terrifying, and completely intriguing, the barista and the boss. 2 lives running on parallel tracks until a missing receipt, a sloppy wire transfer, and a deep, systemic financial error forces their worlds to collide. Welcome to Afro-Korean Boss Empire. This is the story of how one simple coffee order led to a life of romance, suspense, and betrayal. For weeks, the routine was flawless. Zola mastered the art of ignoring his intense, proprietary gaze. But one afternoon, the routine broke. Kang Min's Americano was paid for not by cash, but by a complex wire transfer that had been flagged by the cafe's antiquated system. Zola's professional instinct, honed by years in high finance, took over. The transaction wasn't just messy, it contained an unnecessary 3-party intermediary loop that increased the transaction fee by 1.8%. It was criminally inefficient and screamed of systemic failure. She corrected the error, but the details, the complexity, the sheer waste stayed in her mind. What kind of business operates like this? She wondered. The next morning, Kang Min didn't order coffee. He walked directly to the counter and handed Zola a stark black business card. It listed only a private number and the title, Advisor, Lee Holdings. "You fixed my wire transfer yesterday," Kang Min stated, his voice a low, gravelly baritone. "You saw the error I missed, an error my entire team of advisors missed for 6 months. You understand complexity. I need you to fix mine. My current compensation includes quiet peace and the avoidance of high-risk corporate intrigue." Zola replied, her tone cool and professional. "I left the finance world for a reason, Mr. Min." Kang Min leaned in, his intensity overwhelming the small counter. "I don't care about your reasons, I care about competence. Lee Holdings is complex, Ms. Quasey, very complex. The bank you left is currently under government investigation for the very systemic errors you saw in my simple transfer. You understand how systems are deliberately broken. I need you to clean up my mess." The seed of curiosity, combined with the sheer challenge, was too much for the former banker to resist. What kind of financial structure was so sprawling and sloppy? Zola met Kang Min at his private, secure penthouse office. He offered her a starting salary that was astronomical, 4 times what she made at the bank. But Zola had her own non-negotiable terms. "You need my mind, Mr. Mine." "But my loyalty is not for sale," Zola stated, her voice firm. "I work on my own terms. I get full, unrestricted access to all accounts, all ledgers, and all subsidiaries, no exceptions. If I see anything that puts me or my family in danger, I walk, and you sign a non-disclosure agreement that protects me for life. Do you agree to those conditions?" Kang Min studied her, a terrifyingly intense assessment in his eyes. He saw the fire of competence that matched his own ruthlessness. I agree to your conditions, he finally stated. But you won't be walking away, Zola. You're too smart. And I don't let competence or opportunity walk away. Zola signed the contract, ignoring the cold dread that settled in her stomach. She was officially the chief financial advisor for Lee Holdings. She was also unknowingly walking into the heart of the Korean Mafia. Her first week was a whirlwind. Kang Min's books were a nightmare of poor accounting, needless complexity, and intentional opacity. Zola began the grueling process of streamlining and consolidating, trying to impose order on the chaos. Then, she found it. A massive, recurring, untraceable cash deposit under the umbrella of a defunct construction company. The paper trail was non-existent. Zola confronted Kang Min at midnight in his office. This deposit, Zola stated, placing the ledger on his desk. The source is irregular, the amount is criminal, and the construction company doesn't exist. This isn't just bad accounting, Mr. Min, this is blood money. Kang Min looked up from his work. His eyes were cold, sharp, and terrifyingly calm. He didn't deny it. You were warned, your business was complex. Zola, I suggest you file it under miscellaneous expenses and forget you saw it. Forget it? Zola asked, her voice shaking slightly, the full, horrifying truth of his identity finally clicking into place. You're not a bad business advisor, Mr. Min. You're a mafia boss. Zola knows the truth. She's working directly for a mafia boss, and she just confronted him about his blood money. Will Kang Min silence the one woman who could fix his empire, or will her professional value save her from his wrath? Tell us what you think in the comments below. The cold dread that had settled in Zola's stomach during the contract signing now turned into icy terror. The realization was absolute. The man who frequented her quiet café, the man whose financial chaos she had agreed to fix, was not just a powerful executive. He was Kang Min, the Korean Mafia Boss, and she had just accused him of murder. You know too much, Ms. Kwesi, Kang Min stated, his voice a lethal whisper, his eyes fixed on hers. People who know what you know don't usually live to file the next tax return. Zola forced her voice. Her entire banking career, built on calm under pressure, was now the only thing keeping her alive. I haven't told anyone, Mr. Min, and I won't because you need me. You're wasting millions, tens of millions, because your finances are built on fear, not strategy. I can clean up your books, make you untouchable by the IRS, and triple your legitimate revenue. You don't need to silence me. You need to protect me. Kang Min studied her, his eyes cold and analytical, weighing her value against the threat. He saw the fire of competence that matched his own ruthlessness. He saw the solution to his biggest headache. You are correct, he finally conceded. I don't need your death, I need your mind. The silence was broken only by the click of a lock engaging on the office door. You will not leave this office until I have a full understanding of your work and your loyalty, Kang Min declared. Consider yourself new management. For the next 3 weeks, the penthouse office became Zola's gilded cage. She worked with relentless focus, transforming the chaos of Lee Holdings into a functioning, clean corporate structure. Kang Min was her constant shadow. He didn't leave, watching her work with an intense, proprietary scrutiny that transcended mere supervision. Zola found that the deeper she dug, the more complex and massive the organization was. The illegal ventures, the shipping, the casinos, the black market goods were intricately hidden beneath layers of shell companies, but the system itself was incredibly inefficient. You're losing 6% here just on tax inefficiencies alone, Zola pointed out one night, her voice sharp with professional frustration. And this cash flow, it's unnecessarily complex. Why? Kang Min leaned over her, his breath warm on her neck. To confuse our enemies, Miss Quasi, and to entertain myself. The lines between professional necessity and personal obsession blurred further every day. Zola learned that Kang Min was a solitary creature. He ate when she ate. He slept only when she was safe in the adjoining room. He only spoke about the numbers. Yet the air between them was thick with a tension that had nothing to do with finance. One evening, Zola worked herself to exhaustion, falling asleep in her chair amidst the glowing monitors. She woke hours later, covered in Kang Min's custom-tailored jacket, and found him asleep on the couch, still wearing his shoes. Zola studied him. Without the mask of the mafia boss, he looked younger, burdened, and strangely vulnerable. She noticed the faint scar just above his jawline and the way his hands, usually so decisive, were loosely curled. She felt a surge of pity, quickly followed by a spark of attraction. "I did not hire you to sleep on the job, Zola." Kang Min's low voice startled her. He was awake, his eyes fixed on her. "I apologize, Mr. Min, I overworked myself," Zola replied, quickly taking off his jacket. He walked toward her, taking the jacket. "No, I overworked you. You can sleep in the guest room tonight, and tomorrow we take the day off." Zola was stunned. A day off? Why? "Because my system is cleaner than it has been in a decade, and because you look like you haven't eaten a proper meal since you left the bank. I need my chief financial advisor in optimal health," Kang Min stated, his voice a flawless blend of professional command and something entirely new, consideration. The day off was spent in a heavily guarded private museum, followed by a formal, quiet dinner. Zola found herself relaxing, even laughing. Kang Min was charming, intelligent, and utterly compelling. The walls she had built around her heart began to crumble, but the illusion of normalcy ended the next morning. Zola discovered a series of large, undocumented payouts going to an external, untraceable bank in Switzerland. The amounts were too regular to be an error, and the complexity was deliberate. Zola confronted him again, placing the digital ledger on the desk. "This is not an inefficiency, Mr. Min. This is a massive drain. Someone is siphoning money out of your organization. You have a leak." Kang Min merely glanced at the screen, a muscle twitching in his jaw. "It is not a leak, Zola. It is a necessary expense." "Necessary?" Zola challenged, her voice rising in disbelief. "It is bleeding you dry. You are paying off a political entity or a partner. This has to stop. It's unethical, illegal, and it's bankrupting the shell companies." Kang Min's eyes snapped up, cold as ice, and the boss was back. "You stick to the numbers, Zola." "I stick to the consequences. You don't ask about this account again. That is my command." Zola refused to drop the issue. She worked late, digging deeper into the encrypted files, desperate to identify the receiver of the payments. She realized the money was going not to one entity, but to a vast network of individuals, all high-ranking members of a rival syndicate, the Black Serpents. Kang Min wasn't paying off a partner, he was paying for peace. As she finally identified the network, her computer screen flashed and an anonymous message appeared. "You have uncovered the truth, Ms. Quasi. Your boss is weak, paying tribute to us. Meet me at the Grand Han Hotel. We have a counteroffer." Zola looked up from the screen, her heart pounding. Standing in the doorway was Kang Min, arms crossed, his face expressionless. "You disobeyed my command," he stated, his voice dangerously soft. "I did," Zola admitted, terrified but defiant. "Your peace treaty is a lie. They are bleeding you dry, Mr. Min. You need to fight them." Or, Kang Min countered, walking slowly toward her, his shadow engulfing her. I need to ensure the person who knows my biggest weakness remains loyal. You will go to that meeting, Zola, you will accept their offer, and you will tell me everything. Zola is walking into a trap set by the rival syndicate, and Kang Min is sending her. Is this a test of her loyalty, or is he setting her up for a devastating betrayal? And what exactly is the Black Serpent's counteroffer? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Kang Min's command was absolute. Zola would walk into the rival syndicate's trap. The mafia boss had calculated the risk, using his chief financial advisor as bait to uncover his enemy's strategy. Zola understood she was valuable but ultimately disposable. Zola arrived at the Grand Han Hotel, dressed in a sharp black suit that screamed competence. She was shown to a private conference suite where she met the leader of the Black Serpents, a slick, middle-aged woman named Madame Cho. Zola was wearing a hidden audio transmitter, every word going directly to Kang Min. "We know your boss is weak, Miss Quasi," Madame Cho stated, pouring tea with unnerving calm. "He pays us tribute to survive. We, however, value competence over ego. We know you are cleaning his books. Leave him. Bring us the master ledger, and we will give you triple the salary, a clean corporate identity, and complete protection." "And if I refuse?" Zola challenged, her heart pounding. Madame Cho's smile vanished. "Then you are part of Kang Min's problem, and problems are eliminated." Zola delivered Kang Min's prepared response, assuring Madame Cho she needed time to retrieve the master ledger. She successfully stalled the rivals, but as she stood to leave, Madame Cho delivered the real blow. "One more thing, Miss Quasi. We already have a deal with your family's landlord. Your mother's café lease expires next week. If you don't join us, your mother will be served an eviction notice the day after tomorrow." Back at the penthouse, Zola ripped out the earpiece, throwing it onto the desk. "You knew!" She screamed at Kang Min, who was monitoring the feed. "You knew they were targeting my family." Kang Min stood up, his face grim. "I knew they would target your weakness. I didn't know it was the cafe lease. I only monitor high-level bank accounts, not commercial property." "That's a lie," Zola accused, pacing the room in a desperate rage. "You're a monster, Kang Min. You used me, and now my mother will suffer." Just as the tension threatened to explode into chaos, the emergency alarms blared. The power went out, plunging the room into darkness. Kang Min's private security team radioed a breach. "Boss!" They came for the ledger. The Black Serpents bypassed security. "They anticipated your move," Zola realized, her banking mind instantly regaining control. "They knew I'd bring the master ledger back. They're not after the tribute money, they're after the total assets." Kang Min grabbed Zola's hand, pulling her toward the hidden stairwell. "They came for the key to my entire empire. And you are the only person who knows where the original physical ledger is hidden. Stay close to me." They emerged into the underground vault corridor. The silence was broken only by the sound of boots and distant fighting. Kang Min, his body tense, paused, pinning Zola against the cold concrete wall, his face inches from hers. "I apologize for the terror I put you through," Kang Min confessed, his voice a low, raw rumble that shocked Zola. "I calculated the risk, but I failed to protect your mother. That was my mistake." "Mistakes cost lives," Zola whispered, looking up at him, her fear momentarily eclipsed by the electric tension of their proximity. "And love costs everything," Kang Min murmured, his eyes blazing with a mixture of adrenaline and deep, possessive desire. He didn't ask, he moved. He kissed her, a sudden, desperate, consuming kiss that spoke of fear, ownership, and the inevitable attraction that had simmered between them since the first Americano. Zola kissed him back with a fierce abandon that surprised them both. 5 weeks of tension, anger, and undeniable attraction dissolved into that moment. But the embrace was shattered by a flash of light and the sound of footsteps approaching the corner. Kang Min pulled away, his face instantly reverting to the cold mask of the boss. "They're here," he stated, his voice sharp. "The master ledger is hidden behind the third panel. You find it." "I'll buy us time." Zola nodded, adrenaline overriding shock. She ran to the panel, her financial mind taking over. She began working the coded lock. The system was complicated, but not for the banker who used to debug flaws for a living. Just as the lock clicked open, the light hit the panel. Zola saw a small engraved inscription next to the lock, partially obscured by the metal frame. It was a single ancient Korean symbol. Zola's hands froze. She had seen that symbol before. It was the mark of the Kim clan, the original, powerful mafia family whose assets were absorbed by Kang Min's people a decade ago. It was a family whose remaining members swore vengeance on Kang Min. Zola just discovered a secret tied to Kang Min's violent past. Is the ledger actually a key to the Kim clan's vengeance? And does Kang Min truly need Zola to fix his finances? Or is he unknowingly using her expertise to secure a ticking time bomb? Tell us what you think in the comments below. The ancient symbol of the Kim clan was a stark, terrifying reminder. Kang Min wasn't just a mafia boss. He was a conqueror, and the ledger Zola was risking her life for was a trophy from a vanquished, vengeful enemy. The discovery changed everything. Zola knew that Kang Min had needed her expertise to solve a decade-old vendetta, not just a modern financial problem. Her value was professional, but the danger was primal. "Zola, what are you doing?" Kang Min yelled through the earpiece, fighting off 2 rival syndicate members in the corridor. "Get the ledger now!" Zola snapped back to reality. She pulled the thick, leather-bound master ledger from the hidden compartment, but she didn't run. She tore out a single, heavily encrypted page, the section detailing the original Kim clan assets, and slid it into her suit pocket. She ran back to meet Kang Min, joining him in the desperate fight. They moved as a seamless, deadly unit, their tension fueling a terrifying efficiency. Zola, using her intellect, directed Kang Min to the weaknesses in the rival's strategy. Kang Min, using his strength, eliminated the threats. They eventually escaped through a maintenance tunnel, collapsing onto the concrete floor of a hidden safe house. The adrenaline was a tidal wave. Kang Min, his chest heaving, looked at Zola with a primal fire. "You were amazing, Zola," Kang Min gasped, pulling her toward him. "You are mine. You saved me." Zola didn't resist the embrace, but her eyes were cold, her voice flat. "You didn't need a financial advisor, Kang Min. You needed a Kim clan asset recovery specialist." "You lied to me." Kang Min's eyes dropped, shame briefly crossing his face before the mask of the boss returned. "I used you, Zola." "Yes, but I needed you. The entire system was breaking. I needed your brilliance to prevent a war. The ends justify the means. And what about my end?" Zola challenged, stepping back. "You promised me safety. Now, my mother is being threatened with eviction by the very people you're paying off. Your means endangered everything I love." Kang Min moved to her, his voice softening, attempting to regain control through intimacy. "I will fix the lease. I will buy the building. I will eliminate the serpents. I will protect you both. Only trust me." "I can't trust you, Kang Min," Zola stated, her voice hard with finality. "You are built on lies. You offered me a contract built on transparency. You gave me a life built on deceit. You are my enemy." "I am your lover," Kang Min countered, grabbing her hands, his eyes blazing with the undeniable truth of their attraction. "The man who risked his life for you, the man who put me there," Zola screamed, pulling her hands away. and you will pay for it. The price for betraying my professional trust, Mr. Min, is a choice. Zola knew Kang Min's weakness wasn't money, it was control. She pulled the Kim clan asset page from her pocket and tossed it onto the table. The paper was instantly recognizable as the key to his dynasty. That page represents the Kim clan's hidden wealth, money they will use to fund their vengeance against you. Zola explained, I have the key to destroy them, or to save you. You give me a choice, Kang Min. Kang Min stared at the page, his face cold, assessing the ultimate cost. Your choice. First, you give me your encryption key, access to all accounts, including the Swiss network, no questions asked. This proves you trust me, Zola commanded. Second, you must choose the ledger or the love. You either eliminate the serpent leader, Madame Cho, which will save your empire but stain your soul with more blood, or you must publicly expose the identity of the mole within your own organization who betrayed your location. Tonight? But risk collapsing your internal power structure. Kang Min's jaw tightened. He knew the mole was his own head of security, his childhood friend. He was faced with a life-or-death decision between his empire, stability, killing the rival, and his personal loyalty, exposing the friend. Zola has secured the ultimate. Kang Min must choose between two impossible acts: eliminate the rival Madame Cho to save his empire, or expose his treacherous best friend to prove his honesty to Zola. Which choice will save their lives, and which choice will destroy the boss? Tell us your prediction in the comments below. The tension in the penthouse office was a coiled spring. Kang Min stood before Zola, facing an impossible choice: his empire's stability or his own soul. He stared at the encrypted page, the key to destroying the rival Kim clan, and then at Zola, who held the power of absolute truth. He looked at her, seeing not the barista, but the brilliant strategist who was now the only thing keeping his crumbling kingdom alive. His empire needed ruthless war, his heart demanded honesty. Kang Min reached across the desk, not for the page, but for his private office phone. He pressed a single button. You win, Zola. He spoke into the phone, his voice cold and definitive. Alert the authorities. Code red. The informant who gave up the warehouse location was Jae Ha-yoon, head of security. Turn over all evidence to the police now. Execute full termination. This is non-negotiable. He hung up, his jaw clenched, the betrayal of his friend complete. I chose honesty, Zola. The serpent leader, Madame Cho, will survive to fight another day, but my internal system is clean. I exposed my own weakness for you. Zola didn't celebrate. She saw the heavy cost of his decision. She saw the boss who would destroy his own to prove his loyalty to her. You paid the price, mister? Min, you chose the love. Zola did not waste a moment. She immediately accepted his encryption key, full, unrestricted access to the Swiss accounts. Within 24 hours, she used the hidden Kim clan assets page to cripple the Black Dot Serpent's funding and bought the building that housed her mother's café, securing its lease for the next 20 years. The war was won, not with bullets, but with superior balance sheets. Kang Min watched in stunned admiration as the financial chaos he had created was dismantled and rebuilt into an unassailable corporate fortress. The war is finished, Kang Min stated one evening, finding Zola working late. The serpent leader is bankrupt, the police are satisfied, and your mother is secure. You kept your promise. The empire is safe. The contract is not finished, Zola countered, looking up, her eyes blazing with a new professional authority. You gave me my mother's safety, and I gave you a clean empire. Now comes the final term. Kang Min walked to the desk, his intense gaze unwavering. Name your price, Zola. It is yours. I want the business to be permanently clean, Zola stated. No more blood money. I will be the permanent chief executive officer of Lee Holdings, managing all major political and financial assets. You will be the silent partner, the ultimate protection. We merge the dark and the light. And the final term? The romantic contract? Kang Min whispered, his voice dropping to a low, possessive rumble. Zola stood, walking around the desk to meet him. You will not own me, Kang Min. You will earn me every single day with transparency and truth. I will not be your prize. I will be your partner. Kang Min didn't hesitate. He pulled her into a fierce, passionate kiss, a kiss that was no longer desperate, but respectful, full of deep admiration and love. My partner, my CEO, my queen, you saved my empire and my soul. The answer is yes. Their wedding was a quiet, private affair, celebrating their unusual, hard-fought bond. Now Zola, the former barista, was the new financial titan of Busan. Kang Min, the former ghost, was her silent, devoted shield. A year later, Zola stood on the penthouse terrace, looking out at the city she now helped command. Kang Min approached, placing a loving hand on her shoulder. The Japanese trade deal is secured, Zola said, smiling. Our legitimate revenue has tripled, and the final inspection from the hospital is complete. Kang Min looked at her, his eyes warm, fixed on her slightly rounded belly. The heir to the empire needs a suitable nursery. It's time to build a crib for the real boss. Zola laughed, placing her hand over his. She had walked into a café looking for peace, but she found a war and a man who demanded she become the most powerful version of herself. Zola secured the ultimate power. She won the Mafia Boss, the empire, and the final word. But what kind of danger will the heir be born into? And will Kang Min's past ever truly stay buried? We need a part 2. Let us know in the comments if you want to see the rise of the Mafia Boss's family.